quite dangerous.
The worst thing about punters is having to touch them, or have them touch me. That's even worse. Especially when they smell. They've got bad BO and whiskey on their breath. I hate it. Every second I'm in that room with them. Well, it's a game. It's called the game, and I treat it as a game. I try to get as much money as possible, and they try to get as much sex as possible. They don't want to pay too much money, and I don't want too much sex. I had to change my morals. I had to change. Society had kicked me out. Society didn't want to know me. So I had to completely evaluate all my morals, my standards, everything that I'd been brought up with, because I was brought up to think that prostitutes were dirty and the lowest.
Are they?
Wish it had been that hotel. That one's really easy to get into, the one we just passed, but some of them are really easy and some of them are really, really hard. This one you need your passport to get into most of the time. There's all these people outside. This time of night's not so bad. Come 2 o'clock in the morning when there's nobody around. Heels clicking on the marble floor. Standing there waiting for the lift to come down. Any moment the security guard's going to come and tap me on the shoulder and ask me what do I think I'm doing. I didn't want regulars. I didn't want somebody coming back a second time. I just wanted to annoy them, to upset them after I'd got the money. So they'd, oh, I'll leave it, thank you, and ask me to go. I didn't want to stick around. Most clients, the second they're finished, they suddenly get very, very embarrassed and get their clothes on so quickly and run out the door. Because of the fact that they've been with a transsexual. Oh my God, I've got to live with it for the rest of my life. I was born male 40 years ago. My name was Scott. 10 years ago, I changed over to living as a woman. 3 years ago, I had my surgery. And I've been known as Tracie ever since I changed over.
Describe Scott as he was.
As a child, he was very confused, very mixed up, always searching for answers. I remember from the earliest age, 3 and 4 years old, rifling through my mum and dad's drawer in their bedroom, looking for something to make me find out why I felt different from other children. And for a long time, I thought this was a punishment. That I wasn't pleasing anybody. I had to wait until my parents either approved of me, or liked me, or wanted me, before I could become a girl. My parents were born in London and moved just after I was born to the countryside. We had a big house. There was sort of 3 stories and a cellar. Very few houses around, very quiet, and every neighbour was a retired admiral or colonel But my dad wasn't in the army, he was a director for quite a large company. And a lot of time and a lot of effort was put into my education, because being the boy, there was so much expectations from me. They put my name down for St Paul's in London when I was 6 months old. I was sent off to boarding school when I was 7. So yes, they had great expectations, and I didn't live up to any of them. A client that's looking for a transsexual or even a transvestite isn't really looking for sex, they're really looking for a fantasy. and they're looking for their fantasy to be fulfilled. And that is that they couldn't sleep with a man because they're not homosexual, but they would like to sleep with a girl who can provide them with something that a man would have been able to supply them with.
So they can't face the fact that they really fancy a man, is that it?
I don't think they fancy men. I don't think that the appearance of a man is why they wouldn't want to sleep with a man. Sleeping with a transsexual is, I suppose, getting a bit of best of both worlds. It's just a means to an end, and that's the only way I can look at it. I'm getting what I want, they get what they want, and we've both forgotten about each other by the end of the night. The bath would help me make me forget him. How any man can spend 300, 200 pounds on an orgasm amazes me. But I'm glad they do.
How early was their Tracie?
The earliest memory was around about
4.
4 years old. I think when you go to sort of primary school or kindergarten, you actually start to mix with people, other children of the opposite sex, and it's at that age, you know, your mum says you can't get in the bath with me anymore, and you've got to go to the boys' toilets, the girls go to the girls' toilets. And I think at that age is when gender is sort of brought into a personal identity. I think the earliest age I was about 10 when my father walked in on me in my bedroom, and I was like wearing my sister's clothes and a bit of makeup or something. And I was told to get out of those stupid clothes and come downstairs. But when I went downstairs, nothing was said. There was no mention of it. There was no discussion. It's so peaceful and tranquil down here, and I chose to walk through every night after school. I'd go behind a tree and pick up either my sister or my mum's clothes that I'd left there the night before or the day before, get changed, put some makeup on, and go for a walk, just walk through the fields. It was quiet, there was nobody else to either see me or disturb me. I'd just stare into the river or walk down beside the river and just think, as Tracie, it was something that I wanted to do privately, secretly. I didn't want necessarily for people to see me. It was my place for escaping. When I got too big for my sister's clothes, I used to steal clothes from washing lines at 2 o'clock in the morning. There was a lot of guilt, a lot of embarrassment, a lot of shame in everything that Scott did, really. I, Tracie, didn't like Scott at all. And I'm glad I kicked him to the curb.
Tell me about the first time. How did you decide where to go, what to charge? I
didn't go alone, I went with a girlfriend. Although she got picked up after we'd been there for about 2 minutes, and I was there for about 2 hours before finally somebody stopped. And once I told him that, I immediately told him that I was transsexual, he said, I know, get in. I was very, very nervous and actually a bit frightened. I had never touched a man and didn't want to touch a man, so the thought of having to do that was, I think, more on my mind than actually the fact that I was actually going out as a prostitute. It was the fact that I had to do that with a man. The getting paid for it was sort of incidental, really.
But you went through with it?
Yeah.
How much did he pay you?
I think about £80.
So you must have looked like a man in drag, did you?
I was a man in drag at that point. I think I hadn't actually started the hormones, or I'd been on them a week or something. I had absolutely no electrolysis, which is why I was there. I'm trying to get the money for electrolysis and things. So I just looked like Tom Selleck with a wig on, and when I think about it, I'm quite surprised anybody actually stopped for me.
And you did it again?
I tried to do it again that night. I don't think I was very successful, though. In fact, I wasn't very successful out on the street at all. There were other transsexuals out there that were younger and smaller, and I joined an escort agency. And I wasn't asked to go for an interview. And they gave me work. That's how I sort of continued. Hello? Oh, hi, Dave. Yeah? A job for me, yeah? Okay. What's the number?
Is there an enormous demand for transsexuals?
Absolutely enormous. When I used to advertise in the paper, the phone, you couldn't make a cup of tea without the phone. You'd put the phone down and it would ring. Constantly. All through the day and night. Every nationality, every age, every colour, every religion, married, single. Yeah, could I have room 404, please? Every man is a potential client. Thank you.
Was there anything you wouldn't do?
Oh, I wouldn't have sex.
So you'll do everything else?
Yeah.
Why won't you have sex?
I couldn't do it like that. That's not... No. That would... No, I couldn't. I couldn't do that.
Because they're men?
Yeah. I had to really examine myself and push myself to touch a man. Quite tall, 5'10". I've got long dark auburn hair, hazel eyes, very busty. I've got a 44 double D, and I'm quite a large girl, as I understand. That's what you're looking for, yeah? Okay, great. The majority of them didn't want sex.
What did they want?
To discover themselves. They were curious about their own sexuality.
And how did you help them discover it?
By being there for them to experience and experiment with.
How did that make you feel about your body?
Well, it was a body I didn't want. I used to go to bed at night dressed up as a girl, praying that in the morning I'd wake up and everything would be corrected. And from the age of about 8 years old, I used to go out at night dressed up, 1 o'clock in the morning, and then go to school afterwards. I liked school. I liked the challenge of learning. But I suppose I was very tired, having been out all night, coming home at 3 or 4 in the morning and getting 2 or 3 hours sleep before I went to school. I don't actually remember falling asleep in class. But when it came to careers later on in the year, I didn't want to be a fireman or a policeman. I didn't even want to be a nurse, or I wanted to be a mum. I worked for a menswear company, and I did very, very well there. I was sort of assistant manager at 18, 19. But I wasn't happy with that. I wasn't happy with laying tarmac. I wasn't happy working on a beach as a lifeguard. I wasn't happy working as a projectionist in a cinema. I went into the Merchant Navy. I wasn't happy. I tried everything, and I was never, ever happy.
Because?
I wasn't Tracie. Scott was married but separated, living with another girl, but had a string of girlfriends on the side apart from that girlfriend. Not a very nice person, really. Just interested, just looking out for himself and just trying to fit the picture that Scott thought was being a man. When I was working here, it was a point in my life where I wanted to get as much sex as possible as a man. I wanted to find as many women as possible. That's why I worked as a lifeguard, bouncer, in nightclubs. I used to patrol up and down the beach looking for women rather than people drowning. Although Scott knew that he wanted a sex change, it wasn't a thought that was brought out into the open. It was hidden and therefore suppressed the whole time. Scott was always pretending to be very macho. He was always breaking the law. He went to prison 4 times in total. Fraud, basically taking money with promises to pay it back, or using a false name, or just stealing. Somebody saw through me. Another person on the same wing in the prison that I was on. He just came out with it one day. He said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Have you ever wanted to be a girl?" As he said it, I just felt Scott had been stripped away from me, and this man was looking at Tracie. He knew Tracie, and I think from that moment, the very next morning, I put in to see the psychiatrist, I put in to see the doctor, I put in to see the governor, I put in to see the probation officer. I realised that's what this is all about. It became so clear. I came out of prison knowing that I was going to change gender and coming to London with nothing. With nothing. I think I had a plastic comb and a photograph, and that was all. There's obviously a period where you look more like a man than anything else, and you look bloody stupid. And I'd gone for an interview. It was explained to the gentleman that the person is, going through a gender change and would be coming dressed as female. And the employer said that there wasn't a problem. I wouldn't be meeting any members of the public, and it would be okay. But when I've actually knocked on the door, he's told me to come in, and he burst out laughing at me. And told me I had to be, politely had to be joking, and to go forth. And that really didn't inspire me then to go for another interview for a job. Prostitution, it's an option I think everybody is aware of, but most people, fortunately, are able to say no. I couldn't do that. I was searching in my own mind as to whether I could go through with it. I realised that it didn't really matter. Nobody's really paying any attention to anything I do or say. So why the hell not do what I've got to do and not worry about what other people think and see and say? I do know a lot of prostitutes, and the majority of them are very, very nice, lovely people that have resorted to prostitution for the same reasons as I have myself. After the first time, I realised I didn't die. I realised that I might have felt a bit sick afterwards, or whilst, but I was getting my electrolysis done, and that was the most important thing. I had enormous medical bills that had to be met. £7,500 for the actual operation, £3,000 for implants. £30,000 was for electrolysis. I've had nearly 1,000 hours of electrolysis. That's not normal. The woman that does my face says my hair was about 3 times stronger than most. It was excruciatingly painful. The electrolysis was an ongoing weekly thing, and I'd have to find that money each week.
As a prostitute?
Yeah.
And there was literally no other way you could get this money?
I'd like to have found another way. Short of bank robbing. I didn't want to go back to prison. Tracie's not going to get in trouble. Since I had surgery, it's very difficult to actually find clients. And therefore I very rarely work, maybe once a fortnight, once every 3 weeks, possibly once a month. Clients normally want pre-op transsexuals, so they get a bit of both, male and female. And once you've had the operation, of course, bodily, we are female. The fantasy is being lost. But that's fine. I was only working as a prostitute to get the money to have surgery, and now I've had surgery, there's very little need for me to work. And I guess really, if I do clients now, it's more me being greedy than a necessity. I'm not giving it up because I'm disgusted by it or because I think it's just time to move on. It's an experience that I've experienced, and the price I had to pay for that experience was what society condemns me for doing. But I don't really care what I look like, or how big I am, or how deep my voice is. I'm happy. If I wanted to find a partner, I could find a man very easily, but I'm not interested in men. And finding females interested in me is perhaps a little bit harder. How are you? As a female body, I don't like it, it's just the way it is. There's things that I'd like to change. No, just two. But not gender. Okay. I'm happy with my gender now. Right, cheers. The brain and the body match.
Here we are.
Right,
Oh,
cheers,
thanks.
thanks.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye. I feel that society does accept prostitutes more than they accept transsexuals. Prostitutes have certainly been around a lot longer than transsexuals. I've had eggs thrown up at my window, I've been spat on, I nearly got run over once. I've taken stick, I've taken abuse, verbal and physical. But, you know, you carry on. Karen's my best friend. I met her nearly 7 years ago. Hiya.
Hiya.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
How's your back?
Oh, it's killing me. Can you hear that child?
Yes, I can. She's completely non-judgmental. Oh, I got the pictures.
Did ya? Oh, these photos are lovely, actually.
But our friendship isn't about, oh, well, like, because I'm a prostitute. She treats me the same as any other girl. They look nice in the frames, don't they? And we have a laugh together.
I couldn't picture myself going through breech birth.
No. You got any names sorted out yet?
No. I haven't got one name. I don't even feel like
So you don't feel pregnant?
I can't wait not to be pregnant. I'll tell you what.
What, for how long, though? Till the next one pushes out?
This is the last one. I'm not having any more now.
Five's enough.
Definitely.
I married for the right reasons, and I had children for the right reasons. I wanted children, and I wanted to provide and everything for children. I was just unable to. I did love the women that I married, and I loved the children that came from those marriages, but not as a father, not as Scott. Unfortunately, I haven't been given the opportunity to love them as Tracie because I haven't been allowed to see them.
Why not?
My family, and I include my wives in that, was two ex-wives, they weren't prepared to allow the children to see Tracie. Because the ridicule and the problems they would have at school. When I left, I was told you're not allowed to see the kids, but you can phone them. And that was painful. And then I was instructed that I had to tell the kids that I was emigrating to America. And I was told that this had to be done by myself, and I had to dress up as a man and get on a train, which I think is probably the same for instance, a man now being told that he's got to dress up in drag and go down on a train to visit somebody. Most men would be horrified by that, and as a woman I was horrified that I had to get dressed up as a man and go down and see my children and tell them that I was emigrating to America and I'd never see them again. It's got back on the train on my own as well, and I couldn't. My eldest one cried. No, my eldest one said, oh, it's okay. And my youngest one cried. She'd missed me. They know now.
And?
It's up to them now. They've got my address, they've been told all about me. And it's up to them when they're ready to come and see me, if they ever want to come and see me. I can't intrude on their life. I have no right to do that. I don't know whether they could accept the fact that I'd worked as a prostitute. It's not just your dad's a transsexual, but your dad's a transsexual prostitute isn't nice.
You said you dreamed of being a mother, and you have got 3 children. But now you can't even be a father to them. Is that the most painful aspect of your new life?
Yeah, I mean, they are my children. Biologically, they're my children. So, of course, it hurts. And I can't replace them. But as far as Caroline's concerned, I'm her friend and I look after her children. And she's more or less made me part of the family. I take the children at weekends, and we just recently went on holiday together, just me and the kids.
Dave.
So I haven't replaced, but I've got children around me and I can exhibit my maternal instincts. When I go to the house and they see me out the window, they come running out the house, and that's the warmest feeling. That's lovely. They also call me Mum sometimes. I'm proud of what I've done to get the money from Operation. I wouldn't say I was actually proud to be a prostitute, but I am proud that I've managed to achieve the goals that I set.
Do you think it destroys anything in you, being a prostitute?
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit.
What does it take?
Quality.
What do you mean?
The feeling that you belong with society. I am who I am, and I don't see why I should have to change my mind for other people. I want to live my life the way my life was meant to be lived. Sometimes I wish maybe I could come back to that house and start all over again. With the happiness that I found now as Tracie. Who knows how my life might have turned out.